happy Turkey Day! I know it's a holiday only Americans celebrate. I know nobody in Ireland or England celebrating Turkey Day. You know, it's nice when you can make your own high-quality gifts. It took me about 5 hours to make this yesterday. I made it for myself with the last little bit of python I have. Solid brass buckle. What do you think? It's a cowboy rig. It's made for me. Yeah. Custom, hand-fitted. Yeah. Nice. What do you think? Huh? High quality, sewn with 277 thread. That is never coming apart. You know, in live stream, I would irrationally but sensibly draw the conclusion that I wonder what people are doing out there, because there's so many people talking about jinns slash demonic entities. Like, what are you doing? You know, have you like opened up a portal in the basement? Are you reading from one of the untouchable books? Books are nothing. A lot of people actually think that, and I've had a lot of people ask me the titles of these books, and it's like, I'm not going to tell you the title. It's like, well, why not? Because you're going to prove the case of curiosity, you know, ended the cat. You know, as the old saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. You can't read from those books. Anyway, the word Djinn, by the way, comes from the Arabic word John. It's a plural noun. Once again, we are many, i.e. legion, meaning demons or spirits. Specifically, it means hidden from sight. We're just talking about a disembodied being. In my radio analogy, it's no different than talking about the signal. Of course, the signal is modulated. It always is the case that people who are the most prone to possession, by the way, have highly modulated wills that are always perturbed, uncentered, if you will. Let me use this analogy. You know, it's not a perfect analogy. We get the hourglass here, the sand's falling from one side to the other. The people that are less susceptible to interference with and possession are the people whose will is closest to right here. The people that are most susceptible are the people who are living their lives out here or out here. Kind of makes it simple. Yeah. Ultra high frequency, low modulation, greater capacitance. Ultra low frequency, low capacitance, great susceptibility for possession or interference. Some of these beings have never been embodied. Most of them, however, have been to whatever extent. And I give you some logical stuff. I can't stand making videos about something that, you know, you can find 10,000 examples of on the tube. And that's not what this is, so I trust you'll be informative and make things really abundantly clear and very succinct here very quickly. I had an enormous amount of people in live stream over the past many months, you know, requesting me. I was like, you know, I made videos on this topic before, but not to the succinct points that I'm making here, talking about how to expel, what their goals are, you know, why people are susceptible, and all of this stuff has to be hyper-rational, logical, and sensible. True metaphysics always are, rather than the garbage you see in movies or any sort of, you know, religious twaddle that you've been led to believe growing up. I was recently communicating with somebody I was about 95% certain is possessed, and they have all the earmarks of possession, and I think I know how this person got possessed. Even just communicating with them against my will, but since I'm such a nice person, you know, it just gave me the creeps. This person lies and summons other entities unto it. I'm going to say this person, I don't want to give any hints. To serve this person. Eventually everybody figures out what's going on, even if they don't consciously know what's going on, and they end up splitting. And I think when this person actually nearly in a bad accident, I'm going to be very careful in the words I use, bad accident, I think that this person actually left this physical body, and there have been many examples of this, by the way, and a entity, in this case an evil one, actually took the place of that person. And they have mannerisms and gestures that leak through physically that you can actually see. It's like, well, this person's, that's kind of weird. You never see anybody gesture like that. Those gestures are actually earmarks of someone that's actually possessed. You see these of people. It's kind of like a tell, kind of like body language. There is actually specific body language, which itself doesn't, give you the whole picture, but it's like, wow. Not only was I certain this person was possessed, they have these very, very unusual gestures. And I'm not going to actually say, unfortunately, in this video is what they are. They're actually, head movements and facial expressions and body forms that indicate possession. Those themselves are not, people do all sorts of weird body gestures, but it's a language along with all the other earmarks. Yeah, this person's possessed, so. I got the cold chills down my spine communicating with this person. I was very unfortunate to have done so. I could have cut it off, but, I'm shielded against that. But it's like, if I had any doubt before, I know this person is possessed, unfortunately, by an entity. And I think with this person, like I said, when they had a bad accident, the spirit that was inhabiting that radio, if you will, meaning the body, left and a completely different frequency came in. And by that I mean analogously a different being. There is no speaking logic to these people. There's no trust that could ever be put into these entities, and they're people that they're playing with fire. It's like going down to death row. It's like, well, I had a bad experience down there. It's like, what did you think you were going to do? You're going to have like an honest, talk with somebody down there? They're down there for a reason. They're the most deceptive. I'll even quote some stuff from the Bible, not that I care about religious stuff, but I mean, there are facts in every, little tidbits anyway, facts in every religion, and one of which is that, not that the supreme evil is a being, you could think that all you want, that, the most evil is a far better quoter of the Bible than, it's like, who's a better quoter of the Bible? A priest or a demon? A demon is way better quoter of the Bible. There's even that story of Jesus in the desert where Satan is tempting him, and it was actually not a separate entity. It was he himself. It was the polarized self, the psychophysical self against the transcendent self. Devil's a far better quoter of the Bible than any priest is. People that actually engage in summoning, we actually stare at these black mirror devices. I got one here, I'm actually staring at one here. And people get entranced, so we walk around. One of the videos I didn't think anybody would find any great love of was my black mirror device video. It's an ancient device from countless thousands of years old. We have modern ones, which are our phones and our pads and everything else everybody's been completely brainwashed by. Also, too, people are entranced into various objective talismans, whatever they may be, and they had those even in ancient Egyptian and Greek days. They were buried with these people, their talismans, that brought them nothing but ill in life, but since they loved them so much, they buried them with those talismans. There's countless examples of that in ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, people being buried with their talismans. The same is true now as it ever was. In live stream, I actually got to the point of extreme agitation, and people kept wanting me to name the list of, I know there's more than 5, but there's 5 that I know of, 3 of which are incredibly hard to get a hold of. These evil books, like what comes from reading a book, It's like, unless you act upon something it tells you to do, it's like, no, they're actually books they were written by possessed people. Demon-possessed people, and through them, these books were written, and they're meant as summoning tools to manifest evil. And that is the reason why there are legitimately, I know why people think that, and 99.99% of the time that's true. It's like, well, you just read from a book, doesn't mean anything, you're just reading. It doesn't mean you're agreeing with it, or you're going to do what it tells you to do, or believe what it tells you to believe. There are actual genuine books that are summoning tools, and they're written by demonically possessed people. And that is why they're evil. Just to read from them is itself evil, and that's why they're genuinely evil books. I've talked about those before, but please, whatever you do, don't ask me the title of those books. Chaotic wills, as I mentioned before, are and those that have extreme emotions. These have always been magnets to these accelerators, actually I should say. There's no such thing as magnetic attraction. Accelerators to these disembodied beings and these demons. The genuine Exorcist movie is not based in New York. It's based in St. Louis, Missouri. And the kid was using a portal device. Apparently he was autistic, and it was a boy, not a girl, actually. And he summoned these beings. He opened up a permanent portal. I mean, the place has been abandoned for countless years. It was on Zillow. You could type in the address. It was on Zillow for sale for like 20 years. No one wanted to buy it. They keep offering it for a great price, and nobody wanted it. Even the people next door, there's so much activity due to a permanently open portal that they're affected peripherally by that house. I think a group of ghost investigators recently bought the house, but you could be the most solid person in the world spiritually, and it's happened to me, because I actually have on this shoulder back here, I've showed it to people in live stream, I have a demon mask tattooed. It's meant to ward off evil, but it's a demon mask with fangs and a blue face, and I was attacked. It wasn't a muscle spasm. It actually dug deep, deep, deep into my tissue, and it was prolonged. It was a prolonged attack. That I was in a certain spot. I'm not going to name the house that I was in. And I was wearing a tank top because it was just brutally hot. And I saw that demon mask on my shoulder. If you want me to show it to you in live stream, I will show it to you. It's kind of hard. I can bend over and, bend over and pull my, you can see it. It's there. Anyway, it attacked me. I'd like to talk about that in a second and what they actually like to go after. They said, like this one person I was communicating with the other day, people that nearly pass away, they are replaced, kind of like a radio tuning another signal in. But these beings, they like to use people like finger puppets. That's actually one of the things the movies get right, the very few things that they get right. Those who actually summon these beings you're kind of like the chicken that was wondering what was happening in the lawnmower, and it stuck its head on the lawnmower. There's an old saying, the chicken that stuck his head on the lawnmower. Not literally, but, analogously. Me and my buddy went over to this young guy's house, super healthy, didn't do anything, or didn't partake of any of that stuff. Super young, super healthy, and he actually was playing with fire on that sense, and he summoned a being, and there's a cold cathode effect around him. I've talked about this, the reason why it's colder in the moonlight. It's called a cold cathode effect. You could type it in a Google search. You'll find a gazillion examples. You could do all the research you want on the cold cathode effect. The goals of these beings, many of which have never been embodied, but they would love to embody. They love to wreak havoc. It's kind of like inviting destructive people into like a bed and breakfast. You got a really fancy house, and it's your like second or third house, and you rent it out, and you let demons in, and they will completely wreck the house. Completely wreck it. That's exactly what they want to do. Their goal is destruction, debasement, emotional. Hello, I'm going to edit that out of this video. Emotional turmoil that they feed on, kind of like when you throw bread in the water and the ducks and the geese start to flock in to eat all the bread you threw into them. They feed off of it. They love, love, love to destroy beauty. What you're doing, and thereby feeding them, and they're doing by aggravating you to countless different extents, is churning up your energy upon which they do feed. Their goal is not the one, obviously so, which is the goal of somebody that's pure and wise, and so it's the inverse of that. Their goal is the many. There's a reason why, and this is true of the Bible, that they are legion. They are the many. The psychophysical is the many. Gautama, i.e. what the people call the Buddha, is debate with Mara. Mara is just the Pali word for Satan, basically, and Jesus' battle with Satan. It's not a separate entity. It was debating the many being the psychophysical many. Legion, excess. Excess is evil, and evil is excess. That which feeds upon evil is in love of excess, and the excess is the energy that is created from modulation of spirit and of will. When you churn it up, you're feeding it. What you're doing is actually creating a vortex, to keep it simple, to creating a vortex of your life force and your angst that feeds it. I mean, they got their, it's kind of like the drain. They want you to turn up the drain on the shower output. They're waiting there at the bottom to feed off more and more and more of your energy, and they're just completely draining you. That's the other thing that some movies and religious texts have in common, is that they feed off of that, and they can never have enough. And never having enough, of course, is the many. It's kind of like a fire. They want you to heap more and more of your energy in the form of logs upon the fire, and they do feed upon it. But it is, of course, exhausted, and they have to move on to something else. When they're done destroying you, they move on to somebody else. This is where the whole idea of vampires and all the rest of it, feeding off your life force, etc., etc., this is all based in the truth and metaphysics behind these jinns, behind these demons. They should be treated like little children, seen but not heard. They want to feed off of your attention and your disturbance, like a needy little child or a needy little pet. Certain pets are really bad, like large birds, for example. You're never ever supposed to give them too much love and attention. It's like you think you're doing them good. What you're doing them is you're doing them ill, because they become, attached to it so bad that you can't leave them alone at all. They're so addicted to your attention that more and more and more, and it's just bottomless. And you completely wreck them. Just like, giving a little child everything it wants. You give them everything you want, you create a spoiled little demon. It's like, oh, that kid's a demon. You cater to his every whim. You never say no to him. Well, I can't say no. He's just so cute. You're doing the same thing to these beings, and people do that, and people that are not intentionally feeding them, they become possessed due to their emotional disturbance, the nature of their will that's so incongruous, so helter-skelter, so scattered all over the place that they become prime targets. The same is true of personal protection. Situational awareness is everything. People that are just like cross the road without looking, and like somebody that's like counting a giant wad of cash and walking through the bad part of town. I mean, like 10 million eyes like go shoop. You become the center of attention. You should not become the center of attention of any type of evil as a worldly person, or either too as a spiritual person. And this is a problem people are not taught to guard against. They even hate demonic forms in addition to the beautiful. And this is, of course, the case of evil. Evil even hates itself. But since it is not an objective form, unless they're actually taking possession of somebody, it's not an issue for them. Just the same way I got attacked on, they're meant to ward off evil, and I let my buddy do it, but I got this demon mask on my shoulder back there. It's meant to ward off evil. They see that, and they attack the living heck out of it. There's one of the most haunted houses in America. The guy collects all sorts of stuff, and the only thing that keeps getting knocked over again and again and again, he collects these little Beetlejuice figurines that are about yay tall. And they're like the burnt up cigarette man from Beetlejuice. It's a grotesque figure, and some other grotesque figures. And it itself is grotesque, and oddly enough, and it makes total rational sense when you think about it, they despise what is grotesque as much, if not more, than the beautiful that they wish to destroy. I mean, they despise everything, which by their very nature, I mean, they are demonic, but even they cannot stand grotesqueries, objective grotesqueries to them, and they cannot stand it. But those do not feed them. What feeds them is the beautiful, which they turn into grotesqueries, or try to. That's their whole goal, is destruction and debasement, emotional turmoil. Like that one kid, it was unknown causes, but I mean, he ended up, going 6 feet under because what he summoned. They completely took him over. He never got a moment's rest, even in sleep, if he got very little sleep, if he got any sleep at all, excuse me. Expelling them. I have to ask myself, what are people doing or not doing? There are places where you can get, get them to latch on to you or try to. But a strong will and calm nerves, of course, makes yourself impervious to them, invisible, in fact. There are no magic words, including the exorcism rituals from the old Catholic Church. It's the demonic entity's belief that it works, that it does work. You could actually chant gibberish with high, strong will to repel these beings, and it would work exactly the same. The strong will to actually repel possession. It is none of the Latin in those texts. Oh, Maria, Patri, and Filii, and Spiritus. Most of those beings don't even know Latin. Some of them could be old enough and actually do know Latin. But the percentage of those that even know what's being said in Latin, of course not. Absolutely not. Or even, words don't repel anything. It's will and intent. You could recite a poem with such strong will and fervor that, you could scare the living heck out of anyone or anything. It's like, what did you do that you scared them so bad? And they, ran away with their tail between their legs. Oh, I was reading a poem from Lewis Carroll. Like, what? Yeah, I was reading a poem about flowers. Like, what? Yeah, I just read it so forcefully and with such intense glazing intent and power of will that it, they turned tail and ran. So it's not the words and it's not the text. However, in the case, some texts are, once again, written by possessed beings, demonically possessed, and there are genuine evil books. Just never ask me the title of those books because, once again, the curiosity got the cat, as the old saying goes. I would not want anybody reading from those texts because people are curious. Well, I can't be, I'm going to give an experiment to do. No. No. I would never give anybody that. There's an old saying from the Dignicaea, and evil is recognized universally, and this is where metaphysics and religion cross over and find agreement very few times. And one of those few times is on the nature of evil, and there's a passage in the Dignicaea that's repeated in the Majjhima Nikaya talking about modulation of will, and of course total liberation is demodulation of the spirit. Bhavanyarodhan bandham, Suvimutta Chatasana bandham, also tu Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha from the Yoga Sutta of Patanjali's. There's a saying where Mara, by the way, once again, is the Pali word for Satan, essentially, couldn't find him, he who has passed away. They said the ridgepole has been broken. It's like finding a signal without modulation. Well, a signal without modulation, it really isn't a signal because an unmodulated signal has no frequency, it has no wavelength. There's no radio on Earth that can tune a signal without modulation. The modulation of this signal is 162.400 megahertz. It's tunable, it's a set, it's a known, it's modulated. It has a demonstrable footprint in and of the universe. And that footprint is how anything and everything either is embodied, gets latched onto, gets destroyed, gets debased. The fundamental substrate of evil and why these entities do what they're doing and escape, all of it is extremely simplex. Very, very, very simplex. People are caught up in all the minutiae and details that they can't see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is super, super important, and a lot of people can't see it. But this is the simplex nature of these jinn or demons. How to expel them, the goals thereof. If they're disembodied, you can actually expel them. In other words, they're not taking possession of somebody. You can actually dispel them with a spark gap generator. They're for sale everywhere, including eBay. You got to be really careful with them. Just type in spark gap generator on eBay. Okay, they're all over the place. You could even build them yourself. How to expel them, what their goals are. When you understand the goal and the motive of someone, of something, then you understand how to repel it and what to avoid. Also, too, the things that actually summon them, the communication. You know, why is it bothering Billy Bob over here and it's not bothering Susie Q over here, for example? And all of that's hyper-rational. So, this is the nutshell version of, well, 20 minutes plus of Djinn/demons, what motivates them, how to avoid them, how to get rid of them, what's the reason for, boom, boom, boom. Thank you so much for watching. If you ever like these videos on intense metaphysics, even though I keep them simple, any donation is always warmly welcome, and the links below in the description. Also, too, my free books and articles below. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Lux Veritas. Let me try that again. There we go.